Did Trump enjoy the humiliation from Putin and Xi in China, and how does he plan to proceed? All these topics we will discuss right now. My name is Iryna Uslova, and today with us is Yuri Rashkin, TV host of YouTube channel Rashkin Report and Rashkin Report in English. Yuri, hello. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
At the military parade in China on September 3rd, the evil that Ukraine is fighting against was present. State Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky during a joint press conference with Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico in Uzhhorod. I believe the parade, where ballistic missiles were displayed, is definitely not about the past, but unfortunately about the future. In my personal view, Ukraine lost millions of people during the occupation by fascists and went through the entire struggle. Our grandfathers and great-grandfathers all fought against fascism, Zelensky said. He noted that even during full occupation, everyone knew that fascism was evil and it would be defeated. Does Donald Trump realize that all of this evil really were together in China for 4 days, for 3 days, for 2 days, and they signaled a lot to the United States and to the whole world that they want to fight against all civilization?
There's a lot of things that Donald Trump may not realize. He's been known to ask questions about who were the good guys and our guys in different world wars. So who were the good guys? And I believe he was told by General Kelly that the easiest way to tell who the good guys are is which side we're on. And but I think that Donald Trump has a lot of flexibility in how he looks at anything, and he can change his mind many times, even in reverse. So I think that one thing that we're observing is complete lack of trust in the strength of the United States and ability of the United States to project strength. And we see this from Ukrainians, we see this from Europeans, who are on one hand are kind of checking in with Donald Trump about different things, about negotiations, about peacekeepers and so on. But realistically, nobody can count on the United States at this point, except for maybe Russia. And I think that the parade that took place in China, clearly Donald Trump felt left out because this is a big celebration of authoritarianship that he missed out on. This is where all the big bad guys that he's been promoting, that he said that he is the only one who can make peace with them. Here they are, and he's not there. Well, that's really not good. And also China, where do you go for a good military parade these days? It's not too many places that will provide that kind of opportunity. And China is the place to get it now, and not the United States, because Donald Trump had a parade for his birthday or whatever the reason he announced it was. But it was a very sad looking parade, especially in comparison with a good old-fashioned dictatorship display that China has put together that immediately made everyone, the people standing with their flags and doing this, in sequence, reminded people of especially Russian speakers of Moscow Olympics of 1980, when the big bear, Moscow's bear, and then he, with balloons, he flew away. If only Russian Soviet people could escape that easily as a Olympic bear. But that's for Donald Trump, it's impressive. For Americans, it actually is not very impressive. I think that when I saw a news article referring to Modi from India, obviously, the prime minister going to China, it wasn't said that this is for the amazing, awesome, unbelievable military parade. It was that Modi decided to go to China for an event. It could be anything. It could be lunch. It could be any, and so I think from American point of view, we also have a long respect for Chinese gymnasts and different performers that have been staging incredible performances in our performance halls where we gather and then we applaud them because it's unbelievable feats of being able to put yourself in a pretzel and then, pile on of lots of other people with lots of other things. So on that level, again, I think the parade was a success. I think they could take it on the road as a kind of a show, because China is not really famous for its fighting ability, but the parade was awesome. Donald Trump wasn't there; his parade sucked, and now he's got to see Vladimir Putin hang out with Xi Jinping. It's almost like Donald Trump told Zelensky that he was leaving Ukraine for Russia, and then he watches on TV how Putin went back to his old wife Xi Jinping, and they're celebrating many years of marriage. And Donald Trump is again feeling left out on yet another level, because, when you have Xi Jinping on one side and then Putin on another side, clearly next somewhere in there should be Donald Trump, and he wasn't. So I think that we all looked at that and said, so what about those Epstein papers? Are we going to get some new documents released? And back we go.
But we see some pluses. For example, Trump says that Russia and India are lost, and now they are in the dark shadow of China. Maybe he realizes it.
I think that's a good thing to consider, because he's clearly jealous. And he's trying to show that China is not the club to hang out. You should be hanging out with Mar-a-Lago at the Donald Trump palace, because that's the much better dark shadow, because they have the kind of dark shadows and so on. But I think it's important really to convey to Trump that he was dumped. That Putin was making fun of Trump, because he was saying how there's a shortage of leadership. Thank you to Chairman Xi Jinping, because such deficit of leadership in the world now. And at the same time, we see that Russia wants Europe, and China wants Asia, and I guess United States gets a boat off of Venezuela. Because that's the division of the world now. Donald Trump is, unfortunately, he was hoping that he was getting all this leverage. Remember how we discussed how all these European leaders are showing up and going to see him? Well, when was the last time this has ever happened before? But it really is the end of America as we're kind of gotten to know it, because what we're seeing is Europe solving its own problems, just like Trump wanted, without us. And guess what? Then it's going to be hard for President Trump to get his Nobel Peace Prize, because he is not helping, and also because he decided to rename our Defense Department into Department of War. I don't know how that's good for a Nobel Peace Prize, but who's counting? At the same time, we're talking about the peacekeeping force that is supposedly supposed to go in Ukraine, and to me, that's also a misnomer, because peacekeeping force standing between Russia and Ukraine is a bunch of people that are going to get shot at first. So peacekeeping, I don't know. But that's the president we have, and he's going to keep trying to help Putin as much as he can. However, the betrayal aspect of this is so important, that it's not about how China is not going to be as cool as Trump. It's about how Putin is playing things, he's doing things behind Trump's back, how Trump can't trust Putin. That would be really the biggest accomplishment. If there was a chance to do like an inception, to plant an idea in Trump's brain, I think that's the inception of an idea that we need.
Dear Yuri, Donald Trump recently shared on Truth Social a photo with Vladimir Putin, that photo from past summit on Alaska, but without any explanation, without any comments. How can you interpret this move, and what signal might it send to both our supporters, to European allies, or maybe to Kremlin? Maybe Trump showed that B2 and signals that he can attack Kremlin soon.
I think fundamentally we have gotten to a point where Donald Trump is trying to show that he is alive because he's tweeting. This is something that we had with
Maybe.
philosopher Descartes, who said that I think, therefore I am. In this case, we have I tweet, therefore I exist. And he's showing pictures. He's showing how he really, Putin shouldn't forget, this is almost like blackmail. Oh, yeah, while you hang out with China, well, here's when you and I had some good times. Remember that beautiful flyover? Of course, flyover seems to be, that's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's planes. It's really not so much. Now, Donald Trump, on the other hand, has a really impressive I don't know, I'm being sarcastic here, a track record of using military flyovers to try to disrupt press conferences. Because the other day there was a press conference in Washington, D.C. by victims of Epstein case, and there was a major, flyover them, which disrupted their conference for a few seconds. And the consensus was that even if Donald Trump did not actually order that flyover, he surely was happy that it took place, because disruption, that's what we can do. And I don't know to what extent that impressed Putin, because Putin just saw a really good parade. And, Donald, your parade wasn't very impressive.
Maybe, yes. Maybe Trump wanted to visit that parade too.
He would love to have been at that parade. I think that this is the club of people that, unfortunately, we can all see he wants to belong to. He doesn't want to be with democratic countries. Even when he is consulting with European allies, this is in the middle of a trade war, essentially, that he's having with the same countries. But Russia, there's no trade tariffs on Russia. There's no, all of this craziness with trade with Russia, because, you have to have good terms there. Although it is encouraging, I guess, that Trump is now arriving at the place in his story arc, where he says, I don't think that Putin and Zelensky are going to get together. I don't know, Iryna. It took me, I had to talk to artificial intelligence to have to draw it for me, because my imagination failed. A smiling Zelensky, smiling Putin together, and a smiling Donald Trump. That's just, so Donald Trump finally realized that this is happening. Why? Because he is failing. And he doesn't want to be there, because he doesn't want to be at a failing enterprise. That's called his former marriage. And all of these businesses that he had to file bankruptcies on, when it fails, he's out of there. Now, this is really tremendously difficult moment for people who have been paying attention to Ukraine that live, let's say, in the United States, because ever since we elected Donald Trump, we more or less expected him to do this. And so there's consequences for this, because the United States looks like a country that is destroying its reputation, because who is going to trust the United States? But at the same time, what's happening right now with Donald Trump trying to walk away from our national security concerns is almost like a cherry on top of the disaster that's unfolding in the United States, like a train wreck in semi-slow motion. Whether you're talking about the tariff policy, whether you talk about what's happening with immigration and National Guard, whether you're talking about vaccines and what's happening at CDC, it's just a complete, as I say, trumpets, which is an indication of a complete catastrophe caused by Donald Trump. Of course, he doesn't have to run for re-election, so he's all good. But there's lots of people in his party that should be very concerned about the outcome that this may have in the elections. And we shall see how much longer they're going to be hanging on to dear Trump for dear life, because they have no alternative. Well, their alternative could be losing elections. So we'll see.
Putin invites Zelensky to Moscow. It looks only like just a mockery, and shows us that Putin doesn't want any negotiation, in fact.
Absolutely. I think it does look like mockery for a good reason, because, or you can say it's trolling, because we know we're now in the world of social media and trolls are everywhere. But to invite, it's also kind of a spit in the face of Trump, who doesn't see it because the emperor is naked. So if you kind of spit on him, that maybe he'll just, who knows what he'll consider that. Because this is an admission that the United States it has no leverage. We have nothing that Putin is scared of. He can just mock, Zelensky and everybody else who is interested in peace, and really clearly show that he is going forward. Now, we don't really know his capacity. We don't know whether he is able to go for a long time, whether he is really interested in Trump trying to find a peaceful solution to this, because he is struggling. But we know that what is needed is pressure on Russia and arming Ukraine. And pressure on Russia can come via sanctions, which we are struggling to see much of. But we are seeing actually pretty like a resumption of attacks on oil refineries in Russian occupied territories in Luhansk area, which I think is a really important sign to Putin that no matter the parade in China, he still has a Ukrainian problem that he's refusing to acknowledge, and he's refusing to sit down at negotiation table and end it. And this is going to really make, I mean, I know it's kind of silly to say Russian people suffer, but it's going to eventually incapacitate the regime. And hopes that this was going to be resolved by China or North Korea are temporary, because Russia is basically sliding back into the swamp that it supposedly came out of thanks to high oil fuel prices, and then the switch from communism to capitalism, whatever. Now it's just going to be really, I think, and that's what Trump is hoping for. If Ukraine manages to get Russia to sit at negotiation table, Trump is going to be perfectly content with this, because he wants the war to end. And he's just waiting for either Ukraine to force Putin to sit at the table, or Putin to force Ukraine. And unfortunately, Trump is also trying to hold back Ukraine at the same time, which is just a reminder to those who thought that it couldn't possibly be worse than Joe Biden. Just a hello reminder. Here we are, and we have an American president that, again, just like he did during his first cadence, his first term, won't let Ukrainians use ATACMS to hit deep within Russia. Similarly, as javelins were not allowed to be used where they would have been useful, and instead had to, while they were given to Ukraine, they had to be put away somewhere where they couldn't be used, far away from the fighting. So the ideas are the same, similar, but again, it's really encouraging to see that Ukraine is starting to use more and more of its own ammunition. I just saw a report about new Bogdana units. So there's howitzers, there's transportation systems, there's all sorts of things that Ukraine is showing really that it did use time well after all the criticism. But Ukraine is able to now survive this transition from the Biden world into a post-Biden world, where Ukraine on some level is relying on European allies to provide funding, to provide some assistance, but the guarantee of Ukraine's existence and success continues to remain Ukrainian army and idiocy of Vladimir Putin.
But, talking about that security guarantees, I cannot see any real movements, only discussion, only about some troops, boots on the ground, without it, with supported by the United States, or maybe no. Maybe, Yuri, you can name some details or specifics around this topic.
No, I couldn't. I'll fail that test, because to me, this is the security guarantees is almost like a way to test temperature, to see what's really happening. Are they really interested in peace while shifting the responsibility to somebody else? Donald Trump can shift the responsibility to Europeans. Europeans can shift the responsibility to Vladimir Putin, because Vladimir Putin said he'll never accept Europeans there. Okay, so, and all of this only after war ends. And so I think everybody understands that anybody that is going to end up, like I said, between Russia and Ukraine is more than likely going to get shot at. And that means that if Europeans are really seriously interested in planning on putting boots on the ground in that neighborhood, that means that they're ready to fight. And I don't, and nobody else seems to really see much appetite from Europeans to actually engage in, kinetic combat with Russia, which means that all of these conversations is just a way to see what the temperature is and to demonstrate to Donald Trump that there is a peace process, even if it's mostly going on in his head. It's like a theater for one audience member where everybody is doing everything on stage they possibly can, although kind of sort of half-assed more and more, especially Russia. What kind of acting is this, inviting Zelensky to come to Moscow? That's not serious acting. And all of this is for Donald Trump to sit there and go, yes, I like this. Give me my Nobel Peace Prize now.
Only about Nobel Prize, but even Americans don't think that Trump deserves it right now. One of the last but not least question, really the most effective response to Russian Federation is our strikes on their energy infrastructure, oil refineries, because it's legal war aims. President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, says Ukraine will respond to Russian energy strikes. Ukraine is responding to Russia's strikes on its energy infrastructure and will continue to do so because it will not endure in the dark, stated President Zelensky during a joint press conference with Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico. And we will continue to respond. And it's really effective way to show Putin that we can stop this war.
It is, and then maybe Zelensky will get a peace prize. Wouldn't that be inconvenient? But I think ultimately it's not a bit about peace prize, because if it was, Nobel Committee can always give another one to Barack Obama, just to kind of keep Donald Trump kind of running after this carrot. But it's about Ukrainian lives. It's about the Ukrainian state. It's about United States national security. And when it comes to those kind of terms, I think things should become more clear. And it's clear that Vladimir Putin is not somebody that an agreement can be made with, that he has appetites that go far beyond Ukraine, that Europeans, including Ukraine, are clearly understanding this, and they understand that nobody is going to fight harder than Ukrainians for Ukraine. And I think that we now have almost like a boat that's been launched by Joe Biden's administration, and now it's out on its own, seeing what's going to happen. But luckily, it seems that Russia and Russian war machine is either inept and or also was substantially weakened over the first 3 years of combat. But at the same time, I think that Putin always, whenever he is emboldened, gets even more vicious, even more cruel. And so I think having this kind of a blessing from China that he has just received, it's interesting, not in a good way, to see how he will use that perceived leverage that he feels he has now to proceed forward with his dream of occupying Ukraine. There's a number of possibilities, and hopefully his strength and abilities are just not where they need to be, and versus Ukrainians who are just seem to be getting stronger militarily speaking. Yes, this is really damaging it's killing people. But Ukrainian munitions and military strength is becoming more self-sustained and stronger, and therefore guarantees for Ukraine's victory are growing stronger, more certain every day.
Yuri, thank you very much for your clear answers, for your position and your time. See you next week. Take care.
Take care.
Yuri Rashkin, host of YouTube channel Rashkin Report and Rashkin Report in English. Please subscribe to these YouTube channels. And my name is Iryna Uslova. You were with us on our YouTube channel War and Politics 24. Thank you guys for joining. See you later. Take care.